Welcome to the Coach Zing Show, helping you work less, earn more, and reach more people through creative content marketing. Join the Coach Zingers community, where the world's best coaches, therapists, authors, and speakers come together to discover the latest trends, forge powerful joint ventures, and grow their business together. Go to coachzing.com/community to join. And now, here's your host, Doug Foresta.
Hello, welcome back to the Coach Zing Show. This is your host, Doug Foresta. This is a show we help you, coaches, therapists, speakers, and authors to work less, earn more, and help more people through creative content marketing. My guest today is Melissa Lanz, and we're going to talk about the power of honesty in content marketing. And I know you'll get a lot out of this episode. I know many of you are looking for, one of the big things is, how do I make the most out of my content? How do I make the most out of, when I share with people? And I know Melissa's going to share some great things with us about how she grows her business. So stay tuned. I'll say a little bit about Melissa and bring her right on. Melissa Lanz is dedicated to happiness as a daily lifestyle. As the author and founder of the Fresh 20, Melissa understands that the path to health and happiness runs through the kitchen. Her healthful menu plans have helped over 100,000 families get wholesome food on the table. In 2011, Melissa founded the Family Food Summit, an online conversation with food industry leaders about feeding our family. She believes in small changes every day to encourage optimal health and promotes family meals. Melissa is a former internet brand consultant for Fortune 100 companies. She knows what it takes to create profit based on an idea or a spark. An expert in small business structure, Melissa mentors dreamers beyond passionate ideas into real tangible results. She speaks nationally on happiness, business, and the idea of personal optimization. Her best-selling book, The Fresh 20 Cookbook, was released in 2013, and she resides in Los Angeles, living with 3 boys. One of them she calls hubby. And you can find out more about Melissa at melissalanz.com. That's Lanz.com. Melissa Lanz, thanks so much for joining me.
Hello. I love how our bios sound. Whenever anybody is reading my bio, I'm always like, who is that?
It's like hearing about yourself in the third person, right?
It is. It's a little weird. You write it all down.
I've had people say that they were going to, they're going to hire me to just read their bio when they woke up in the morning so that they could remember who they were. So, oh, look what I've done.
We do need that reminder sometimes. Absolutely.
So we were chatting for a moment before we got started, and you said something really interesting that I'd like to explore, which was about the idea that for you, that honesty has really been a really important content strategy in your business. And I was wondering if you could explain more to our listeners about what you mean by that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when we look at what really gets people moving to take action in marketing, it comes from those things of being vulnerable and touching somebody else and kind of being able to connect with other people's pain points. And for me, we can all talk about our successes, but when we really talk about our failures and we talk about the things that didn't work, it helps people the most. So for me, honesty has been such a big part of my marketing strategy. If you want to call it marketing strategy, I just think it's part of who I am, and right. I put that forward, and that's the honest part. Because people can look at you a lot of different ways, but when you can connect to them and they feel like you have something in common, it's so much easier to make those connections. And I find a lot of people creating marketing content to try and sell, right? Instead of creating marketing content to serve. And I think when you create content to serve, then people will follow you and they want to hear what you have to say. And that only comes from being honest.
How do I know if I'm creating something as a listener? How do I know if I'm creating content to sell versus creating content to serve? What would that look like? What would the difference be?
If you have to come up with marketing taglines, if you have to, if you're creating, instead of letting what you want to say kind of flow into the content, it's kind of like sitting at a dinner, right? And you're there, and you want people to like you. You don't know everybody in the room, and the best dinner parties are those where everybody just lets their guard down and just kind of like takes that big long breath out and is able to talk to each other in a very real way. The worst dinner parties is when people show up and they try to think of something to say to make you like them, or they try and think of something to say to seem interesting. And so for me, I know that I'm not writing an honest piece of content when I'm trying to be interesting, instead of when I try to be interested in other people and their experience with my content. That's when I know I'm on the right track. But when I'm trying to be interesting, that's the worst thing you can do for your marketing content.
It's funny, as you said that, I was thinking of a story. I once went to a networking event, and there was a guy there, and he worked in the painting industry, and he just had this one really bad joke, and he told it to me, and then I heard him go around the room, and he just said the same thing to every single person, and you just like, I just wanted to die inside, and I kind of think of...
I mean, that's it, right? He's trying to be interesting, thinking that, oh, if I'm interesting, people will remember me, and and that's not true in real life, and it's not true in any type of online marketing or, what's true is when you show up and you're interested and you're connected to the room and what's happening, that's when people are like, oh, wow, like I really remember that person. That's what real marketing is. And when you think about any majorly successful marketing campaign, that's really what it's about. It's about the brand or the company being interested in its audience.
So another thing I'm thinking as a listener, if I'm a listener right now, is a question about, so how honest should I be? In other words, like, well, I can't tell people if I'm coaching people or I'm a thought leader. Can I really be honest about and be vulnerable about what's really going on? I mean, how honest should I be? What should I tell people?
I think you have a responsibility to be as honest as you can, especially if you're a coach or a business leader. I think that the false idea that, really successful coaches or business leaders don't have upsets and failures and days when they want to crawl back into bed and times when they don't know, what the next step is. I think that's a really powerful message. I think that allows and gives people the space to be able to be imperfect and still create amazing businesses and amazing lives for themselves. If we only lead by things that are, bright and shiny and new and pretty, it really doesn't allow much space for growth on either side of the fence. So for me, I have a tremendous skill with business to be able to take someone's experience and identify their skill sets and, create business opportunities for them. But that doesn't mean that I don't have my own struggles in my own business or my own coaching or my own life. And when I put those forward, that's like the start of the conversation, right? That's the start of saying,
right,
this is what's happening, and trying to find ways that we can grow and be more productive and better coaches and business people as a collective, instead of, this model where the leader is perfect and, telling down on all their subjects, like this is what you should do and how you should do it. I just don't think that's the way that human business works.
In fact, I think that one of the things I've seen with people who do that is that you actually box yourself into a corner, because then you're not allowed to be human. And yet, of course, you're going to be, and there's nowhere to go when you are struggling. You can't tell anyone, and you can't show any vulnerability. And that's an awful place, I think, to put oneself.
Yeah. I think there's only so much that someone can learn from you if you're unwilling to be vulnerable. But I think there's a tremendous, deep, wide breadth of things that someone has to learn from a coach that is willing to be vulnerable, that's willing to show up and say, and give their perspective on that vulnerability as well. I'm not talking about, coaches and authors that, are, puddles of, tears and upset. I'm not talking about that. I'm not saying, oh yeah, you can completely show up upset to life and everything's always chaos, right, and it's great. But what I'm saying is there's this idea of showing up, especially in your content marketing, that is very real, very honest, and not afraid to kind of look like a fool. I liken it to actors, right? The best actors that you admire and that you want to watch over and over again are not afraid to look like a fool. And I think that if any coach or author that isn't afraid to be in the vulnerability seat is not someone that people will follow for long, or that will be able to, build a huge business from.
Melissa, can you give an example? Are there any examples that come to mind in your own content, as you talk about this idea of honesty and sharing, honesty in content? Can you give our listeners an example of something that you've shared that allows them in that way?
Well, the best example I can give is I always liken in some of my content marketing and just, either on a blog or in stories that I tell, I use my marriage a lot, much to my husband's chagrin. And not in a bad way. I have a tremendous marriage, but it's in no means is it just, every day, sunshine and roses and chocolates and flowers. And I once wrote a post about literally about honesty and how it could benefit your life. And part of the post was this story about walking into my husband and saying, we need to talk, and his face just going, oh my God, what are we talking about? And me telling him that I needed more attention, more love, that I needed him to be my boyfriend because I wasn't, just going into this whole story about it. And him thinking, and at first you could see his whole entire thought process and his thought in his face, and then he just had this deflated, energy. And then he actually kind of looked up at me and he said, yeah, me too. And I wrote this whole story because when he said me too, I was like, what do you mean you too? What are you talking about? Like, I'm the best wife ever. You can't possibly mean you too. So it was just telling this story about honesty and being able to look at the situations that you're in. And I use him a lot. There was another time he, after being together for 12 years, he informed me that he hated the smell of baby powder, which was my deodorant scent. And he had never said anything. And we were together for 12 years. So that was another, piece of content that I wrote about always being able to accept feedback. Right?
Yes.
That was a great piece of feedback.
It's a hard piece of feedback, I know.
12 years earlier that the daily deodorant that I was putting on was off-putting to him. It's like, and then I had to break up with my Suave baby powder. That was hard. And it took me a moment to make that decision between my deodorant and my husband. But I think I chose wisely.
It sounds like you did. Well, what was the response to that from your audience? How did they respond?
For me, it's always about making connections. And when you get people writing you back and saying, I can't believe you said that. I mean, and it was so great. And I really realized that, like, I don't have to hide behind this or that. And, every piece of marketing doesn't have to lead to a sale. For me, content marketing is really about building a tribe and building an audience of people that trust you and that will follow you, and you start conversations. So the best from both of those two pieces of content were really about building trust and starting conversations and having people write to me and say, thank you. Thank you for just putting it out there and being so honest that everything is not, perfect over there in the Melissa Lanz household.
I like that. And like you said, I think it does create more engagement because then, people are like, oh, I could relate to you, or I could relate to what you're saying. You also talked about one of the other things that you'd mentioned, when we were just before we started was about this idea of giving more than you get. And I was wondering if you could say a little bit about that. What do you mean by giving more than you get? I
think when we relate, sales, content, or marketing, we kind of forget that for a lot of us, a huge reason why we get into any type of people service business is that we want to serve. And I think when we start to follow formulas and, follow business marketing or, coaching marketing 101, we kind of start setting up these paths and these funnels and all of this content marketing without really thinking about why we're doing it. And we're doing it to serve. And I think that if you can give a lot on the front end and, and be free with your information, there's always more information that you can sell further on down the line. But I think you have to be willing to give without getting before you can really effectively make a sales pitch. I think, there's thousands of examples online where you go to someone's page and they haven't really given you anything of themselves. They haven't given you any business knowledge. They haven't given you, much value of content. And yet right away they hit you with a sale. And it's the biggest turnoff online. I mean, I'm sure you've, experienced that. And I feel like the engagement and the inviting someone into who I am and letting them kind of not necessarily, pick my brain, but kind of letting them know what I'm about by giving them lots of value-added content or lots of, opportunities and content. I think that's really important. And I always bring it back to wanting to be of service. Just this last December, I did a series of what I called gratitude calls, and I opened up, I only had 9 spots just because I literally could only find 9 half an hour moments in my schedule during the holidays, but I opened them up to gratitude calls. They weren't for sales. They weren't selling into anything. They were literally just, I'm here, I'm available. Schedule a call if you have something in your business that you want to talk about or that you're stuck in. And it was so gratifying just to be able to do that without expecting anything else in return or leading them into a sales funnel or, sending them a marketing email afterwards. It literally was just about that giving. And I think when you can take moments and do that, it strengthens your business in ways you can't imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny, when you said that, I was thinking of one of the things that really irritates me is you go to someone's website and it's designed so that you can't even get into the website without giving your email address.
Yeah.
And I'm like, come on,
Yeah. And that's the other model, right? That's like, you give me something and I'll give you something.
Right.
And that's great. Everyone needs a lead generation tool on their website, but I think I'm just of the belief that someone should be able to kind of tool around and check you out and see things on your site before and if they want more information, they give you their email, because it's that thing. It's just this collective idea. If you're good to people, then one way or the other, they're going to tell somebody's going to find you, and somebody's going to refer you to somebody else. And it's just this whole entire idea. So rather than call it content marketing, I call it collective marketing, right? It's this idea that being part of a collective of people that kind of want the same things or are working towards the same things. That's the best marketing that you can do for yourselves. And like I said, the best way to do that is to give more than you get.
I love it. And I just can't thank you enough for sharing, what really is a mindset shift with our listeners about, like you said, about honesty and giving and doing that in an authentic way and letting that come back around. I think that's such a great, important thing for us to keep in mind. I want to make sure that people know how to reach out to you, Melissa, if they've liked what you've shared and want to connect with you. Can you give people that link again about how they can reach out and learn more about you?
Sure. I'm super easy to find. I'm at Melissa Lanz. MELISSALAN as in Nancy, Z as in zebra.com. Any email that goes to melissalanz.com comes to me, so you can reach out. And I'm the most accessible CEO businesswoman coach I know. Like I'm obsessed with communicating with others. So I enjoy it. It's like, it's why I do what I do. And I think can I say one thing? I have a book resource.
Yes, you can say whatever you like. Absolutely.
My actual business coach just turned me onto this book and sent me it, and it's called Anything You Want. And it's 40 lessons from a new kind of entrepreneur. And the author is Derek Sievers. He was the founder of CD Baby. And it's a quick read. It's like an hour-long read, but so insightful. Such a really good book for people that are trying to do things different and stop following formulas and, not having to do everything the way everyone around you is telling you. Because I think that gets back to honesty, authenticity, and not following formulas can get you just as far as, getting your funnels right. So Anything You Want by Derek Sievers. It's a great, great read.
I love it. Thank you. Melissa Lanz, thank you so much for joining me today. And thanks you for sharing your words of wisdom with our listeners. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Wild success.
Thank
you. Bye.
So I want to thank everyone for listening. And as always, remember that nothing you've heard here will make any difference in your life unless you take action. So get out there and make it happen. Till next time, this is Doug Foresta at The Coach Singh Show.
Thank you for listening to The Coach Singh Show. Subscribe to us via iTunes, and please leave us a review. It helps us grow our awesome tribe. This show is brought to you by CoachSing.com's Speak to Publish book system. If your book is stuck in your head, we can help you get it out in just a dozen hours of your time. Go to CoachSing.com for more information. Have you joined the Coach Zingers community yet? You'll get exclusive access to private mastermind calls where you can get instant marketing help from industry experts. Plus, we'll help you forge deals and partnerships with other like-minded professionals. Go to CoachSing.com/community to join now.